Hello, this is Pam. I am going to be sharing with you or discussing the findings of an amazing study that was just published about a month ago in a really good journal. And the findings of this study are really profound for MS research. And it really confirms what the cause of MS is. So this is a study that was done by a group of US researchers, and they found high levels of certain neurotoxins. And these are, so neurotoxin means a toxin that is very damaging to our nerves. And they found those three neurotoxins in the plasma, so in the blood, but also in the spinal fluid of MS patients. And they found abundant amounts of these neurotoxins in the blood and in the spinal fluid of MS patients, but not in healthy controls. And so this is very important because it is just part of the mound. It's a very large and ever-growing body of research that really shows that MS is caused by infections. And when we have not just MS, but other neurological diseases, other chronic diseases, we are in a state of dysbiosis, and that's what this study talks about again. So that means we're out of balance. So we're going to talk about what the findings mean for those of us that suffer with MS, how we can use this to really improve our quality of life and treat the cause, but also to really have an understanding of what we're dealing with, because we're not just dealing with one type of bacteria or one type of infection. So that is why it's so important for us to really not wait for a cure, because I don't know if you're frustrated or not, but I was diagnosed over 30 years ago and we still don't have a cure, and we still are no closer to finding a cure, and we don't know what causes the multiple sclerosis. So we have to take responsibility for our health, and that is how I have been able to live MS-free. So with this research, what I'd like to ask you to do is, if you're just joining, please share this link, share it with other groups. Help us to get the word out. We need to start talking about this research. Share this with once you're done, make sure to get the link and share it with your doctor, your GP, your neurologist, your chiropractor, your naturopath, your functional medicine doctor, with different MS groups. We need to start talking about this. We need to start really going in a different direction. And as we go through the findings, I'm going to basically, I'm going to review it, but I'm going to read between the lines. So I'm going to share with you what they feel the relevance of this study is, but then I'm going to share with you what the real relevance of this study is. And they're very different things. So just wanted to say hello and thank you so much for joining me, and just make sure that if you could just like this and share it with others, that'll help us get the word out. We had thousands of people looking at this post, so I'm really hoping that this information will get out in a big way. We have to change the way that we treat multiple sclerosis. And if you haven't met me, my name is Pam Bartha, and I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis over 30 years ago. It's 33 years now. And because I took this different approach, which I'm going to tell you about later, by treating these infections, I've been able to live MS-free, and I'm helping many others to do the same. So this study is done by a group of US researchers, and it's really freshly published, just December 2021. And they found three specific neurotoxins, so metabolites, so chemicals or compounds that are produced by these bacteria, and they are poisonous to our nerves. And they found them in the blood and in the spinal fluid. This was published in the journal Brain. And so it really helps us to understand how these gut microbes can really impact not just MS, but other neurological diseases. So in a nutshell, the study was funded by a pharmaceutical company, and the pharmaceutical company produces this specific disease-modifying drug. And so they looked and they found these metabolites, these neurotoxins in MS patients that were not treated with their drug, and they found it abundantly in high amounts. And they also found that in healthy people, they don't have these neurotoxins in their blood or in their spinal fluid. And so then they also said that with their drug, that if people are on their drug for 6 months or longer, that there's actually, it changes the microbes in the gut a little bit, so they have less of these disease-causing microbes. So then it's showing up with respect to MRIs and things like that, that it is helpful, that this drug is helpful. So this study is really trying to build evidence that their drug is useful and important. And so we might say, well, great, there's less metabolites in people that are treated with this drug. They still have the metabolites, but it's less. So then we want to ask critical questions like, how much less of these metabolites are present? Does this really make a difference in the quality of life of the MS patient? What are the adverse effects of the disease-modifying drugs? Is the benefit of this drug more than the cost or the negatives, the adverse effects, et cetera, and the financial cost, et cetera? Is there a way that we could actually, so the way that I want to go is reading between the lines and saying, so if there are bacteria that are producing these neurotoxins, then is it possible we can figure out which bacteria they are and just treat them and not live on disease-modifying drugs for years and years and years, and just treat them? And I know well enough that it's not just bacteria that are causing the MS symptoms, but would this be part of the solution for recovery? Maybe there's other infections we have to treat too, but what if we just treated these infections? Could we get our life back? Can we recover? And the answer is yes, people are doing it all the time. So that's the angle that I'm going to look at this research. So it's great that they've done this research, and they found too that their drug, it does not do anything to the neurotoxins. It simply would change the microbiome a little bit, so then there will be less of those disease-causing microbes producing neurotoxins. But I'm all about, can we get our health back? Can we get our life back? And that's the direction that we're going to go in this live event that I'm doing with you. So I was diagnosed with MS over 33 years ago, and at that time I found at least 4 medically trained doctors that were talking about this already. So right now, if you followed some of my work, you would have noticed that over the past couple of years, I've got a playlist on Live Disease Free YouTube channel where I've reviewed several different studies. So this is a really huge field of research in MS, looking at dysbiosis, meaning that we're out of balance. We have too many disease-causing microbes and not enough health-promoting microbes. And then you may have seen the research I've shared on my masterclass training from Dr. Alan McDonald, where he's actually found small roundworms in the spinal fluid and brain of MS patients, in all of them that he looked at, every single MS case of person that died. Also, he's found juvenile developing tapeworms in the central nervous system, but also the larva of the tapeworm. And then there's tons of research showing candida and different types of fungi in the central nervous system, in brain cells, in the nucleus of the brain cells. And then also dating back to 1911, we see that there's research supporting that these corkscrew type bacteria, which would be Borrelia, which is the bacteria that causes Lyme disease, they were discovered all the way back in 1911 in MS patients. So when we look through the results of this study, it's helping us to better understand that, like, it's not just the bacteria, it's not just the worms, it's not just the fungus that are directly causing our immune system to fight and causing inflammation, but sometimes it's the poisons that they produce cause a lot of inflammation. Our immune system is sometimes reacting to the poisons that they produce. And what's really interesting is looking at some of these toxins, these 3 toxins, that they are really, like, I just kept finding like kidney disease, and cardiovascular disease. So they're depending on, where the infections are, what infections are present, what poisons they're producing, it can really cause a lot of organ damage and different types of chronic diseases. So it's not just the disease-causing microbe, but it's also the poisons that they produce that cause the problem. So in this study, this one that I'm sharing with you, they found, and I will post a link to this study in the feed of this video, and in the top of the video also. And I'd love for you to share it with, again, with all of your practitioners and start to ask some questions like, are you aware that there's a huge growing body of evidence and research talking about gut dysbiosis in not just MS, but other neurological diseases? And, are you following up on it? And what do you think about it? And just keep giving them the information about Dr. Alan McDonald, the parasites in the central nervous system, the fungus. Give them our link to our page, Evidence that MS is an Infectious Disease. That's on our livediseasefree.com website. But you are the ground crew. You are the wellness champions. You are the ones that are going to make things change. Unfortunately, our practitioners are not being trained about this in their schools. There's a big reason for that, right? Because there's no money in treating these infections. There's a lot more money in suppressing our immune system for many, many years. And the drug that they're talking about in this study, before I forget, I just want to mention, I don't want to say names because I don't want to get censored, but this particular drug, the active ingredient of it has been used to prevent mold from growing on leather, furniture, and shoes. And it's so toxic that it has been banned in the European Union for that purpose because it was giving people such horrible skin reactions. And there were lawsuits, etc. And we are giving this drug internally to people with MS. So maybe this drug is a little bit toxic to some bacteria, but it would be also toxic to our good microbes. And is it really the most effective treatment we could use to treat these bad bacteria that are producing these neurotoxins? I think not, or else we would be cured taking it, correct? So anyhow, so it is still interesting. So the three different chemicals or compounds that are neurotoxic that they found, and I'll probably pronounce them incorrectly, but I'll try here. So P-cresol sulfate and indoxyl sulfate and N-phenylacetylglutamine. So those are the three. And what's really interesting, I just took a couple of minutes. So I do have a science background and I do love researching, but I don't have a lot of time because I've got a lot of students and we're doing a lot of work in helping people to recover from chronic disease. But all I did was I just literally took, let's say, the first compound, so P-cresol sulfate, and I just did a Google search, like what bacteria produces this compound? And what was so interesting is that Clostridia, and there are other microbes too that produce this compound. So there's quite a few different ones. So there's different types of Clostridia. There's Staphylococcus. There is Enterobacteria. There's enterococcal bacteria and Eubacteria. So, but the ones that really stand out, and some of them may be really toxic, but ones that really stand out to me would be Clostridia and Staphylococcus, but especially Clostridia. So why is Clostridia such an issue? I just want to share with you a little bit. So again, I just literally just did a search, like what bacteria causes, and I'm not saying that Clostridia is causing MS, but what I am saying is that over the years, through my research, I keep bumping into Clostridia, and I think that it is one of the bacteria that is causing a big problem in the neurological symptoms of MS. So I know that Dr. Natasha Campbell-McBride, who came up with the GAPS diet, she has found Clostridia and also other research. I just found a study 2017 that Clostridia is a real problem in children and adults with autism. And Clostridia is a nasty, nasty bacteria, really awful. I just wanted to share with you some of the things that it causes. So it can cause, so normally, and there's many types of Clostridia. So we're just going to talk about one bacteria, but remember there can be hundreds of bacteria, and we talked about the worms, we talked about fungus and Lyme disease, etc. Let's just talk about Clostridia. So Clostridia, in other studies that I shared just this past year, they're finding higher amounts of Clostridia in MS patients. They also find them in people with autism. They also suspect that Clostridia could be one of the culprits in ALS. It's normally a commensal organism, so if we have a healthy ecosystem where we have a lot of the good health-promoting microbes in our gut, then if you have a little bit of Clostridia species, they're really not going to cause a problem. But again, if you've listened to my masterclass training, how we get out of balance, how we end up with dysbiosis, then they can be a real problem. So when they're highly populated in our body, certain species can cause food poisoning, gastroenteritis, botulism, and gangrene and tetanus. And Clostridia can also infect the gallbladder, the colon, the female reproductive organs. It can also cause colitis, toxic shock syndrome, C. difficile. So my father-in-law passed away from C. difficile, which is one of the species, and it causes a lot of like inflammation in the small intestines and watery diarrhea. Really the best treatment for C. diff is a fecal transplant, which is interesting because Dr. Perlmutter was talking about fecal transplants for MS patients and how they definitely made a difference. We have found that they don't last long enough. The benefits, you have to keep getting fecal transplants, so you still have to treat the infections. But also the Clostridia infections can develop when the intestine is torn. So then I've talked to you about the other parasites, and flukes, which are flatworms, are also a problem with our students recovering from MS, myself included. I definitely had intestinal flukes. So sometimes it's the damage of the worms that can make us more susceptible to a Clostridia infection too. Because we might be saying, well, why are we dealing with this Clostridia infection? Overuse of antibiotics, but sometimes these other parasites can infect us with different types of bacteria, including the Clostridia species. Clostridia infections of the abdomen and pelvis are serious and sometimes fatal. Clostridia can produce a lot of gas, which form bubbles and blisters in the infected tissue. A lot of pain and fever. Abdominal, if you have it in the abdominal area, can be really tender to touch. Can infect the uterus. Women with foul-smelling, bloody discharge from the vaginal discharge, which would be awful. So it just really depends where the infection is. But they have found that in this study, they were talking about one of the toxins. Let's see, I'll get rid of that one here. But one of the toxins in the study they were talking about was the toxin epsilon. They call it epsilon, and it's produced by Clostridia. And that is one of the 3 most toxic bacterial metabolites that are known. And that was found in, I have a lot of research here, sorry. Let's see here. Yeah, so they found the epsilon toxin. It is the 3rd most potent bacterial toxin known. It's produced by Clostridium, and it was present in MS patients. And another really important thing about just that one toxin, it is absorbed and it acts locally in the intestines, and then subsequently it binds to and it causes lesions in other organs, including the kidneys, lungs, and brain. So Clostridia is often associated with diarrhea. So that's why a lot of people think, well, I don't think I have Clostridia because I don't have diarrhea. But it can cause constipation also, and a lot of our students with chronic disease have constipation. So I hope that this shows you how significant this, like, it's kind of like putting all the pieces together of a puzzle. And I know that it can be like a little overwhelming because it's like, well, there's several species of Clostridia, but there's other types of microbes that E. coli and Clostridia, not Clostridia, Chlamydia pneumoniae, and there's Lyme infections, and there's worms, et cetera. And it's like, how do we get balance back? And actually, you can get balance back, but it takes strategy. It takes a specific plan. And so I just wanted to finish sharing a little bit about what this study shared. So they shared that our findings suggest that MS patients' gut bacteria produce and release large amounts of these 3 toxins in the bloodstream, and they eventually reach the spinal fluid once there. These toxic metabolites, a metabolite means a byproduct that the bacteria has produced, they bathe the brain and the spinal cord and potentially play a role in the destruction of the myelin sheath, and that protects the nerves. And so they have found that these toxins, they really do impact the function of our nerve cells. And the presence of high levels of these toxins is correlated with biomarkers of neurodegeneration in MS patients and with the ability to impair neural function of cultures. So they have taken human cells and so this is called in vitro, so it's not in our body, but they've taken human cells, and then they put these toxins with the cells and nerve cells, and they find that it really impacts, damages the nerve cells, the human nerve cells. And so they're finding it's a really exciting discovery because, again, they're saying, well, with our drug, people might have less of these toxins, so it might help them more. It's like, no, those of us with MS, we want to get our health and our life back. We want to treat those infections. We don't want to just try to mitigate the toxins. We want to treat the infections, stop the neurotoxins from being produced, and the other microbes. So what I wanted to share with you, go ahead and add any questions that you have. Unfortunately, not a lot of people are showing up here, which is unfortunate. I know that our platform, they changed their look. So if you have a question, please type your question in the question box. And if I don't answer it right now, because I don't see a lot of questions right now, again, we had a change in this platform, having lots of technology fun stuff going on. But we will answer your questions. So please make sure to answer the questions, and we will post we will definitely post the link to this study. So research is great, but does it work? Like, if you treat these infections, what happens? So what I would really encourage you, if you have not been following my work, then make sure to go, after we're done, go to the Live Disease Free website, and their livediseasefree.com website, and there you're going to find different successes from our students that have graduated from the Live Disease Free program. And you can hear their stories, you can hear their recoveries from chronic disease, and it's super exciting to see the amazing improvements that they've been having and getting their life back. So we also have the academy is taking place right now. Oops, where are we at here? There we go. Now they're showing up. Great. So we also have students right now in the academy that are getting ready to treat these infections, and some of them are treating the infections. And we just had our call yesterday, and I just wanted to share some pretty wild improvements. There we go. I have no idea why, but now all of a sudden the comments are showing up. So I'm going to leave their names anonymous because they're just in the process, and once they recover, you can see their successes on our YouTube channel, livediseasefree.com, and we've also posted on not livediseasefree.com, that's our website, Live Disease Free on YouTube channel. There is a playlist of successes. But these are students right now that are in the process of treating these infections. And so although this study is exciting, that it helps us to see how these bad microbes, bad bacteria can produce poisons that can really impact our nerve, but there's more, right? It's dysbiosis, out of balance. Several infections need to be dealt with. So this one student shared, and this was just what I went over yesterday with our class. I'll just share a few of them with you. I wanted to let you know that a lot of my symptoms have diminished. My left hand was drooping down, and it was even difficult at times to hold my arm up. It would lifelessly droop down, and I couldn't move it. And my right hand was clenched like a claw, and it was completely useless. Physio couldn't even help me because they said I needed a lot more help than they could offer. So she is treating right now. So she's taking antiparasite drugs, and her left hand is working almost perfectly again. My right hand is no longer clenched like a claw. Amazing. And she's just treating. And she has a long ways to go. But I mean, to see that kind of a change, you're on the right track. And then another student, I'm not going to say their names here because these are just in the program right now. She said, after starting 2 parasite meds, the burning in my lower area has left, and I have gotten rid of and she's passing a lot of worms. And I have lots of pictures of worms from our student. I have hundreds of pictures of worms. And the big worms are not the only thing that's causing the symptoms, but they are definitely part of it. Another student shared, the eating plan has helped me tremendously with my stomach. She had a lot of gut issues and no urgency, no bladder issues anymore. The MS hug is gone, and her taste buds have changed. She no longer craves sugar. And she said, it's like I'm living in a different body. And so she also has MS, but she is getting ready to treat. And so that's in the Live Disease program. We follow the diet, the Live Disease-Free diet. We support the body. Then we start to build the game plan to treat, and we treat parasites, which would be worms, big and small, if we have symptoms and if we test well for those treatments. Then we end protists, which are single cell parasites, and then knocking back fungus, and then, yes, knocking back these bacterial infections that produce neurotoxins also. And so she said, this program has helped me to come off of my disease modifying drugs. And actually, the one she's on is actually the one that was in this study that the patients were using, and she had MS, and that's the thing, is that I talk to these people that are taking these disease modifying drugs, and they do not have quality of life. So that is why we want to make sure that we're treating the cause and not just living with our disease. So she's been able to come off her disease modifying, the MS disease modifying drug, and she came off of one of her antidepressants, and she's tapering off the second one, and she'll be off of that right away. And she's then going to start, she hasn't even started treating yet. And she said, I couldn't wait for a moment like this to be off of all my meds. And then another student shared that her blood work is improving, so she's also getting ready to treat, and her balance issues, numbness in her legs and diaphragm, walking difficulties, they're all improving. And she also finds that meditation and yoga is also helpful. So she's following the diet, supporting the body, and doing some meditation and yoga. Her back pain is completely gone. And again, she hasn't even started treating yet. Another student just implementing the Live Disease-Free diet, he said, I'm feeling a lot better. My legs are working again. And a lot of the brain fog that I have has improved a lot. My right arm, which was numb to the elbow, is now back mostly to normal, and it's just a little numbness in the fingers. My vision, which was double, seems to have returned back to normal. Now I want to start treating parasites. So he's followed a successful prep phase. The treatments by themselves are not enough, and so now he's going to start treating. And then another student in Germany, we've got students all over the world treating. He said that my energy has improved, a huge increase in the feeling on the right side of my body. This increase still continues to improve. Being able to move again, the right hand fingers, nearly normal. This is really big because last winter I was not able to put gloves on. Now I can do that. Spasticity is almost gone, and he's able to do sports again. Let's see. Okay, that's it for so that's just some of the successes that just came in this week. So this is what the wellness champions are doing. They are the leaders, they are the trailblazers, they are the forward thinkers. They are helping you to see that there is a better way to treat MS by treating these infections successfully, knocking them back, not just managing them, not just living with them and kind of slowing them down a bit, but knocking them back far enough so that we don't have symptoms anymore. MS is an infectious disease. There is so much evidence, and you have to help me get the word out. So take this article, share it with all your healthcare professionals, share it with all the MS groups. Also share our livediseasefree.com, all the studies that I have listed on the evidence that MS is an infectious disease. Share our YouTube channel. Start talking about infections, right? And before I forget, I just wanted to share that next week I will be kicking off the Live Disease-Free Challenge. And so that's a really fun time. We always do this in the beginning of the year, teaching you how to follow it. And if you follow it, you will start to see symptom improvements, because as you decrease the food to these infections, you are going to notice inflammation starts to go down, and then you're going to start to have symptom improvements. And that is so exciting. And it's really fun to share different recipe ideas. There are going to be prizes, cash prizes for those of you that do, so many entries, etc. So that'll be really fun. So we'll kick it off next week, Wednesday at 5 o'clock, same time. There are a lot of comments that have come in right now. And what I'm going to do is I won't be able to go through all of them. I'll go through just a few of them. But I also just wanted to share with you before I go to them is that If this is new to you and you're like, wow, Pam, this really makes sense that infections could be causing my symptoms. And, I've talked just even in the last couple of days to people that are so frustrated with the medical system. If you get in a car accident, they are wonderful. A crisis like that, they are going to fix you, put you back together. But when we have chronic disease, they don't have the answers. They don't know, and it's not their fault. They don't have good tests. They don't have the skills to recognize or to test for parasites, and they don't have the skill to treat parasites and these infections. So the key is that if you want to recover, start to investigate this whole new path. So what you do is, if this is new to you and you're just like, well, Pam, I need to research this a little bit more, I have a lot of videos on YouTube and Facebook replays. Go and watch them and start to learn the diet, get a head start on the challenge for next week. We have the Live Disease Free Community Facebook group. There is a cheat sheet there. You can download the file, and on the front of it, it gives you all the foods you can eat, all the foods you avoid, and on the back is the guidelines. And the whole premise of the Live Disease Free diet is to give your body lots of nutrition, but to decrease food to these infections, these bacteria, worms, etc. So just learn about the infections. I've got a playlist on YouTube, Live Disease Free, about the infections. Start to change your diet and start to build up your belief system. And then when you have built up your belief system, if you need help, if you need a plan to treat these infections successfully, then what you can do is just watch my masterclass training, how I and many other wellness champions have recovered from MS. And then if you're ready to join the Live Disease Free program, then what you can do is you can simply watch the masterclass training, and then you can fill out a form, and you'll get an email with the coachathon and watch the coachathon. And that really explains in detail the program, how we do everything, how we find practitioners, how we get the treatments, how we get ready to treat, what the cost is, all of that. It's a very proven plan and it's amazing, but you have to be ready for it. You have to be at the place where you're like, I get it. This is my answer and I'm ready. This is going to be my year. And if you're at that place, watch my training and you'll know the steps of what to take. I just want to meet you where you're at and give you what you need. And I really hope that you will help to share this research with other people. All right, so I'll go to a few questions here. Hello, Michael, and hi, Alexander. Awesome. Hi, Joanne. Hope you guys had a wonderful holiday. Hi, Barry. Hi, Lisa. Hi, Joanne. Leah. So, do you still have the cold, Pam? Actually, I think I had COVID. I'm pretty sure I had COVID because my family all tested for COVID positive. And then I had the symptoms that they had. So I'm sure I had COVID, but I know how to treat it. It's actually very treatable. I just followed the FLCCC guidelines and I was able to nip it in the bud pretty quickly, thank goodness. Hi, Crystal. So the nice thing is if you're dealing with long COVID or if you're really sick, just check out the FLCCC website. And you can actually find, if you're in the US, you can find doctors that are licensed that'll treat you. It's very treatable and it's awesome. All right, so what were the three main toxins? So the three main toxins are, I have a lot of papers here. Let's see. They will be in the study. And they are, I'll look for them here. Sorry, I've got like 5 or 6, 10 pages here. I can't find it. Oh, maybe it's even up here. Nope. Okay, if you look in the study, you'll find them. Yes, sorry. I just don't want to take up your time looking through these pages. So you can look in the study and you'll see them. They actually have a little video that they made about the study too. So they made a little video, and then there are different science, like not magazines, but science, not journals, like correspondents or journalists that would write up about the study too, which sometimes they make it easier to understand. So they list the different toxins. Oh, here they are. They're right here. Okay, so it is P, and then CRESOL, P-cresol sulfate, P-cresol sulfate, and then indoxyl sulfate, INDOXYL sulfate, and then N-phenyl acetylglutamine, phenylacetylglutamine. So we don't want to get too hung up on just these 3 toxins because there are many other toxins that, I mean, it's great. We can look at it, we can research it. And what I would do is just like, what bacteria produce these toxins? That might help us to kind of hone in on, and Clostridia and E. coli are definitely, right up there. And there could be some others too. All right, so yes, and I will definitely put a link to this research in the feed. I'm going to do a blog post on it too, where I'm going to share a few other links, like their video. You can find a video on YouTube where they talk about it. I'm sorry if the video got stuck. What do you think about heavy metals? So the heavy metals are not causing multiple sclerosis. They can definitely make symptoms worse, but they're not the cause of the MS. So the cause of MS is infections, but definitely we have to treat the heavy metals. All of us do, and we're recovering from chronic disease. And how do we balance the gut? Beverly's asking. So watch my masterclass training, Beverly, so that there you'll see all the steps that we take to recover, to get rid of the dysbiosis, return back to balance, and recover from chronic disease. Hi, Judy. What about the release of ammonia? That's exactly it. So this is a Facebook user. I don't know your name. So there's ammonia, there's amphetamines, there's morphine-like substance. There's so many different poisons produced by these microbes, and there are hundreds of bacteria, there are worms, there are protists, there's fungi. I talk on my masterclass training about candida and about the poisons that it can produce. So that's why we just go, okay, well, we're not going to get too caught up on exactly which infections we have because we don't have good tests. Let's see what symptoms we have. Let's see which treatments test well for us. First of all, we get ready to treat by decreasing the food to those infections through the Live Disease-Free diet. And then we support the body. And then when we're building the game plan, then what we do is like, what treatments are testing the best for me through energy testing? And so we definitely cycle through treating parasites big and small for about 14 days, using the treatments that test well for us, and then about 10 days of knocking back fungus, and then a week break where we do knock back bacteria, but we don't love antibiotics because that was probably one of the main reasons why we got sick. So instead of using antibiotics, we'll use herbs for that instead. What would be the best thing to mitigate the toxins that are released? Well, that really depends on the toxin. We know that you could start with something as simple as activated charcoal. Make sure it's in a veggie cap, not a gelatin capsule, and take it at least 2 to 3 hours away from medications or other supplements that you're taking, because it will bind to them also. So you could try that. That definitely can help. But you really want to eventually get to the point where you don't have the bacteria producing those toxins. And then there's other things like safe zeolite products can be helpful, and some of them are contaminated with aluminum, so you have to be really careful there. Chlorella might be helpful, but it may not be enough for some of them. It really depends on which toxins you're dealing with. But those are some things. How do we address each infection? So I kind of gave you an overview. So like we will normally test to see which of the parasite drugs we test well for. And so when I say parasite, any microbe that lives inside of us and causes us harm is a parasite. So fungi can be parasites, bacteria, and protists, which are single cell parasites, and worms can be, of course, parasites. So we will normally start by treating the larger infections. So like for example, in some of my past videos, I've shared, like for example, Dr. Alan McDonald has found large amounts of Borrelia bacteria, the bacteria that causes Lyme disease, in the filarial worms that are in the central nervous system of MS patients. So we don't just have the worms, but we also have them bringing Lyme disease into our central nervous system. And that's just what he looked at. But there could be other bacteria that they bring in. So these different bacteria that we're becoming infected with, it's not just the overuse of antibiotics, but these larger worms, and our students have passed many, many large worms. They can also be infecting us with different types of bacteria. And then between the bacteria and their waste, that makes the perfect grounds for fungus to live and thrive, because they are the recyclers of the world. And so we have this situation where it's not health promoting for us, and it's not going to help us, and we've lost our natural defense. So we'll treat the larger parasites for about 14 days. Then we'll treat fungal overgrowth for about 10 days, and then we'll take a week, and that's where we'll normally use oxidizing agents and herbs to knock back the smaller bacteria, etc. And if somebody is just catching disease early, then let's say that they're just newly diagnosed or they don't have a diagnosis of a neurological disease. And the difference between autoimmune, like different types of diseases, is like if you have a neurological disease, then chances are the infections have moved into the central nervous system. But it's all the degree, right? So the sickest of the sick, the most out of balance people are the ALS, the PLS, the Parkinson's, the MS, right? And obviously cancer too. And so the key is we want to get ready to treat, and then we want to treat, and it takes several cycles. If you catch it earlier, then you can recover in less cycles. So a cycle is approximately about a month. And so it might take 4 to 6 for somebody who's really functioning well and not really sick. But then treatment might take a year to a year and a half for somebody who's been in a wheelchair for years, who hasn't walked for years, who's had MS for 10, 20, 30 years. But with our students, we just don't know, because we find that some of our students, like Terry Kiley, and you can hear her story on our website, she had walked for 8 years, and in 3 months, she was starting to use crutches again. And we have some students that have had MS for 20 years plus, haven't walked for at least 5 years, have had really rigid ankle, couldn't move their ankle or leg at all. One lady had her hand clenched for 40 years, 40, and it opened and she was able to use it again. So the exciting thing is that for MS, all you do is you support your body, you treat these infections, you get the toxicity down, you give your body a lot of nutrition, you build the healthy lifestyle. You have to use a holistic approach, but when you do that, you just are going to have more recovery than you ever thought possible if you follow the steps. And that's how we recover. There's never going to be a single magic pill cure. I wish there was, but there won't be. So David, just watch my masterclass training. When I'm done, there will be a link to the masterclass training at the top where the description is. And then I will, in the feed, you'll see it in several places. I'll put the link for this study also. And then you can just watch my masterclass training, and you'll learn more about the process of what we do to recover. Then what you can go from there, you can just fill out the form if you want more information about the plan. And then you'll get a link, congratulations, where you can book a time to chat with me. But if you want to consider the plan, make sure to watch the Coachathon, because that talks about the plan in great detail, like all the steps we take, the cost, how to find doctors, how to get access to treatments, etc. And we have students in over 15 countries that we have served. So we will help you. It doesn't matter where you live, you'll be able to access treatments. Hi, Janet. So Janet, I understand that, a lot of times with chronic disease, many of us have spent a lot of money in trying to recover, and we've lost our jobs. So there are a lot of things that I have for free. So start to change your diet. You should start to notice a ton of symptom improvements just by changing your diet. And then some people, they'll do GoFundMe, they'll go to their churches, they'll get friends, family. They find a way. And this is honestly the most cost-effective way. So just reach out to us, Janet. We've got a few different options. Just go to info@livediseasefree.com. And this is the most cost-effective way to recover. We make it we're helping students to only do the things that they have to do, because there's so many tests we could take. There's so many supplements we could take that are really not going to make a difference. And so what we do is we just hone in on getting ready to treat as quickly as possible, and then treating as quickly as possible. So yes, you totally can afford the program. I know you can. You just have to find a way. And actually, just reach out to us because there's options. They're really, really affordable. Hi, Mandy. Awesome. I'm so happy you're here. So she's a brand new wellness champion. She's just on the journey starting. And what is the best anti-parasite to use? It really depends, Renee, on what parasites you have. If there was one cookie cutter plan, I promise I would give it to you. But even within MS, we're finding that not everyone is testing well for the same treatment. So different people, it's basically, there was a time in your life when you were on antibiotics, and what were you exposed to at that time in your environment? Were you outside gardening? Were you on a farm? Did you have pets? What produce did you buy from different countries that might have been having parasites? Where do you eat? Like, you can get parasites from eating out. They're just all around us. So unfortunately, it's like there are different parasites that can cause the same symptoms depending where they are located in the body. So sometimes it might be some of their, so not everyone will have the Clostridia problem, I'm sure of it. But will they have bacterial infections? Yes. Could there be different bacteria? Yes. But I wish it would be that simple, but I'm sure it is not going to be that simple. And we found too that just using, let's say, antimicrobial herbs, or like even the people that were using, let's say, antibiotics for treating Lyme disease and even treating MS, like chlamydia and pneumonia. There was a doctor whose wife had MS and she went and took antibiotics for a long time. It helped her a little bit, but she still had MS. So again, dysbiosis, not one single bacteria. Okay, one or two more and then I'll have to quit. I'm so glad, Gay, that you found this helpful. This is the answer. Your mom had MS for 30 years, passing at 98. I'm so sorry. So now you know what she was dealing with. And it's so frustrating because, again, I was diagnosed with MS 30 years ago, over 33 years ago. And doesn't it make you wonder why we can't find a cure, why we can only suppress our immune system, the B cells and the T cells? Why? Like, if we know that bacteria are producing these neurotoxins, if we know there is this large and ever-growing body of research about dysbiosis, meaning lots of different microbes being out of balance, why are we not looking to see which bacteria, and why are we not treating? And it's not just the bacteria, but the other microbes too. Laura. Awesome. Hi, Judy. How do you treat parasites? Just watch my masterclass training, how I and others have recovered from MS. When you say there is evidence of worms living in the brain cells, how do you safely expel them? So it's not in the brain cells, it's mostly in the spinal fluid, but also in the brain. They found, so like fungus is smaller, and fungus was present inside inside the where the DNA is in the nucleus. So they found it in the brain cells and in the nucleus, the fungus. But the worms, so with our students, so some doctors might say that you should take steroids while you're treating these parasites, but because of the work we do with really helping to modulate the immune system, really supporting the immune system, and then introducing the treatment slowly, one at a time, the students have no problems with that. I mean, a person could, if they're working with a doctor, they could definitely use steroids. And then also, I've seen research where they use antihistamines to sedate the parasites when they're treating parasites. But you're right, you don't want to just haphazardly just take a large amount. And then a lot of the parasite drugs are not going to cross the blood-brain barrier anyhow. But you definitely want to know what you're doing when you're treating parasites in the central nervous system. Awesome. All right, so Renee, just make sure to watch my masterclass training. You'll get all the details there. All right, I'm gonna let you go. There are a ton of comments. We will answer your questions and your comments. But with that, I hope you join me next week for the Live Disease-Free Diet Challenge. It's fun, and there's prizes, like cash prizes that you can win for the most entries, etc., and the best entries, compliant entries, like different, and it'll give you lots of different ideas on the meal ideas, so what you can eat. So it's very, very inspiring. So with that, again, Please share and like this video if you found it helpful, and if you want us to help change the way that we treat MS. Until next week, take care and bye-bye for now.